You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hi, everyone. We're back at Stellar Success Podcast with a great episode and a great guest, Dr. Joe Purita from Boca Raton, Florida. Hello, Doc.
My pleasure being with you. It's an honor to be with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Purita, tell us a little bit about your beginnings. How did you start? How did you go through all your professional career, and where are you now?
Well, interestingly enough, I started at Georgetown University College and Med School. Then I decided I wanted to go into orthopedics, and I became an orthopedic surgeon, board certified. And I did orthopedics for many years, but I was always interested in the cutting edge. And I was one of the first people doing laser discectomies back in the 1980s and things like that. And then all of a sudden, one day, I started looking into regenerative medicine. And I said, well, let me kind of check this out a little bit. And I said, this is really the way nature does things. So I started out with PRP when I was doing hip and knee replacements. I said, give me that stuff where you make it from the blood. You put some in the wound and then you put some on top of the wound. And all of a sudden I said, wait a minute, these patients are getting better quicker. They're doing better. There's something to this.
Yes.
I've got to look into this more. And then just one step after another. Of course, it was not without some controversy. My partners were sort of looking at me like I was nuts. I mean, a couple of them said to some of my nurses, behind my back, hey, this is hocus pocus medicine this guy's doing. He's going to give us all a bad reputation. Little by little, they realized that this is...
When was this? Like how long time ago?
Oh, close to 20 years ago now, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Early 2000s. I mean, where very few people were doing stuff. And I kind of, took it by the horns and I said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make it work well. Because like I say, I was always intrigued by the cutting edge. I mean, not the typical orthopedic surgeon. And the other thing is, interestingly enough, like I tell, I do a lot of lecturing for regenerative medicine. And I say, look, if you're an internal medicine doctor, a cardiologist, cardiothoracic surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, you're probably not going to make a difference in the field you're working in. But in regenerative medicine, such a new and exciting field, any of us could make a significant difference and make something that can really change things. That's what's so exciting. It's the way I guess medicine was in the early 1900s. If you really kind of looked at things, you could really make a difference. And that's what intrigues me still about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe this. And I think over the years, a lot of people realize that if you give the body what it needs, it can regenerate itself much better than we do, whatever we do.
I have one slide and a number of my talks, and I say, cells, not doctors, heal patients. Think about it. No matter what you do, if you do a hip replacement, you still have to have your stem cells heal the wound. You do a open heart transplant, you still have to have the stem cells heal the wound. So cells, not doctors, heal the patients. When you look at that, it makes all the sense. The other thing I learned is when you start learning how stem cells age and how they act, then you start saying to yourself, well, now I start seeing some guidelines to regular regenerative medicine, anti-aging medicine, longevity medicine, whatever you'd like to call it. And that I think is a good way to look at it.
Very interesting. I'm sure you had some failures along the way too. Can you give us an example of where things didn't kind of pan out for you and moved you forward from that point?
Well, right. You're absolutely right. Thinking about it, some of the people I initially got involved with, kind of like, I won't say shysters, but people who were not in medicine and just kind of maybe wanted to take advantage of me. And I kind of was in some ways naive, said, okay, let's partner up and we'll do this. And I realized this was not a good combination for me. Now I have some partners that are great. They were patients of mine. And they said, hey, we want to make a world-class center. Let's partner up with you. And I said, good. So these were the right guys. But, I had some bumps along the way. There's no question about it, where I was kind of associated with the wrong people. But luckily, I protected myself and I was able to just move on.
Interesting. So how would you define success after all this happened?
Success, to me, it's not just monetary by any means. It's basically giving you a sense of well-being, a sense that you are committed to what you're doing and you enjoy what you're doing. I don't go to work. I go basically to learn and to teach and help people and things like that. That's, to me, successful. If you're basically at a stage in your life where you feel that, hey, if I were to die tomorrow, God forbid, I think I really made a little mark on the world and I did some good and I really did things the right way.
Yes, that's very well said. I like that definition. So do you have any kind of skills or habits that brought you to being where you are right now?
Well,
you used every day?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, every day, my day starts around 4 a.m. in the morning. I get up, I read a little bit for about half hour, 45 minutes. Then I go out and I walk about 4 miles in the dark. I come back get on my elliptical, do about 25, 30 minutes, get my heart rate up to 150. And I go swimming in my pool and I go to the office. And that's 7 days a week. I don't go to the office 7 days, but the exercise is one. And it's very easy to make excuses to not exercise. And I basically, hopefully, will not fall into that trap. I had a little interview I was doing a couple of months ago at a meeting, and they said, what's the best medicine you could tell your patients to take? I said, exercise. Because exercise stimulates so many different pathways in your body in a very beneficial way that there's nothing that can replace it. I mean, you hear of pills in a bottle that can be exercise. Yeah, they can stimulate some of the pathways, but exercise is the number one thing for me.
Yeah, that's so true. Coming from orthopedic surgeon, it's a great advice, I would say. Yeah. So how is a day in your life right now? What do you do? What do you like to do? How do you like to spend your time?
Well, you mean in the office or my free time or?
Both.
Both. Okay. So in my office, basically I write a lot of blogs. I put a lot of things on LinkedIn. So, everything I put on LinkedIn is basically scientific. I'm not one that's going to go on LinkedIn and try and, say so-and-so is wrong. He shouldn't be doing that. That's not my cup of tea. I'm not the police. I'm not the FDA.
Yeah.
Hopefully impart knowledge to people. And then basically doing the same thing to patients. And the patients, luckily, we have patients that are interested in their health. They really want to get better. They really want to live longer. And they want to, what I tell patients, I want to increase your health span. And for those in the audience that don't know that, that's basically, not only do we want to live a long time, but we want to live well and enjoy life. It's one thing if you're living, but you're living in a wheelchair and you're not really aware of your surroundings, that's not living. But when you're there and you're doing things you want to do, that's great. Now, on my free time, one of my passions is gardening. I'm, living in South Florida, I can plant a lot of exotic trees that weren't supposed to grow here, but they do because our climate maybe has gotten a little warmer. And that's a hobby of mine, and I really enjoy it and find it fascinating and relaxing. I mean, my wife will say, well, wait, why don't you just hire somebody to do it? I said, no. I'd rather just do it myself, do it the old-fashioned way. I don't trust them on some of these plants. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think gardening is not only a great thing for the soul, but it's only a great thing for the body too. You put a lot of effort and you exercise a lot when you do gardening. It's a great way to maintain.
Absolutely.
Also, I want to talk a little bit about the financial aspect of your practice and how did you move on being, an entrepreneur basically with your practice.
Okay,
from a typical orthopedic practice that we all know how it is to move on right now to something more regenerative medicine practice.
Well, in the orthopedic practice, I still go see patients 2.5 days a week. I may be stopping that soon because I just want to devote more time to regenerative medicine. But anyway, I talked to them and, I was doing things and I was sharing, a lot of the income that I made with them, even though they were doing nothing. But I had a provision in our contract with each other saying, hey, look, if I want to someday pull these regenerative medicine cases out, I can do that with no penalty. They said, yeah, fine. They figured it wasn't going to really mount to much of anything. Well, one day when I saw that, hey, wait a minute, I'm getting taken advantage of, I pulled the trigger and I made it a separate practice. And I had to go through a lot of hoops, so to speak, to do it because, when you're practicing in the same location, more or less, and you have insurance in one aspect, and then my, regenerative medicine practice is totally without insurance, you had to have separate tax ID numbers, and basically you had to do it the right way. Last thing I want to do is get all sorts of problems and, this and that with Medicare and whatnot. So we did it the right way. And then little by little, I started doing more and more, but I still would operate and do, orthopedic surgery cases and take ER call and things like that. But little by little, I said, okay, fine. And then, I said, okay, now I'm going to basically make a bigger movement. I'm going to take it to a separate location. And I would commute between the two locations. I mean, when I say commute, I mean, maybe they were 3-4 minutes away, 5 minutes away, but still totally separate offices, separate staffs, separate everything. So that was a good move, I think, on my part. And it was, I guess, a little risky. Here it is, you're an orthopedic surgeon, kind of comfortable, but you got to follow your dreams, as the old saying goes. You got to do what you want to do and what you enjoy. If I was, still doing orthopedics full time, I wouldn't be doing it. I'd probably be saying, no, I don't want to do this stuff anymore. With the hassles of insurance and this and that. But, in my practice now, I enjoy what I do and make some good money and things like that. And it's very rewarding, very rewarding. And the patients are basically grateful because you've helped them and you spend time with them. And that's what I like too. I can spend time with the patient and I kind of make walking around rounds because, in our office, we'll do all sorts of things. We do hyperbaric oxygen, the whole body cryotherapy, you name it, we do it, IV therapy. But I go and kind of check people. Hey, any questions? What can I talk to you about? What can I tell you? Why can I tell you this is good for you or that's good for you and things like that. So
yeah, this is one lost science, I would think, to say, because not a lot of people spend a lot of time with patients due to many reasons, like
Right.
insurance and finances and whatever. So it's hard to find someone who can actually spend time with the patient and see exactly what, the questions have, answer them, be more attentive to them, especially in a practice like yourself where you don't deal with insurances. And I would assume it's a cash payment
Yes.
from them.
Exactly.
So
And
also,
cash payment, you have to make sure that they're pleased.
yes, correct. Um, Also, I want to talk to you a little bit about the fact that you got to this point in your career and you choose to do what you like to do, not to what you have to do. And there are a lot of people out there, especially in your field, that they're either burned out, they want to retire and they can't because they cannot do it financially, and they're waiting for or they're hoping to have some kind of passive income streams that they can rely on at this stage. How do you see this issue, and do you have any ideas? Do you have any preferences of creating those streams, or are you thinking about any of them?
Well, I worked hard when I did orthopedics, and luckily I was able to make some decent incomes, and I invested it in a proper manner. So, could I retire tomorrow? Sure. And I think I would do quite. My wife says sometimes, "Why don't you just retire?" I said, "Nah, I'd be too bored right now. That's not my cup of tea." My biological age is a lot lower than my chronological age. So, but I mean, you have to, basically take some chances. But, if you feel that you don't have the proper income, then I guess you have no choice, but you have to keep working. But there's a lot of opportunities out there. You have to just open your eyes up and look at some of these opportunities. And they're there, I think, if you look at them. I mean, just on LinkedIn alone, you see a lot of different things. I always get these emails about, hey, we're looking for this position, looking for that position. So they're out there. And I think people, unfortunately, are looking like this instead of looking like this.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with this. What are your some of the best investment strategies so far that you are happy with?
Well, it's interesting. I've done a lot of investing in real estate. I've bought some and sold some, and that's done well. That's helped me accumulate some nice incomes. And I still have real estate, and I probably always will. I mean, I think it's a good thing. I sold some real estate recently and bought some new real estate, but kind of looking at different markets because, the market of the state of Florida that I live in, the cost of insurance is very high and the taxes are very high. So I decided I would kind of move up to, some properties up in Carolina. Of course, right now, the properties are okay, but, getting to them is a little bit difficult, but that should be better in the next, couple of months, hopefully.
Yeah. Are you more looking at single family homes, multifamily, office buildings?
Basically, what I'm looking at is Airbnbs. And
I see.
I like that because I have a company that can manage them for me.
Yeah.
No hassle to me at all. They just send me a check at the end of the month, and that's it. And that's, I don't need the stress of, I have one little condo that I have in town. Not a big deal, but everything else I have is kind of managed by other people. And I like that. And then, of course, I have a lot of money managers that help me also.
I see. Very nice. Very nice. So looking back to someone who graduates medical school right now, what advice would you give them, knowing what you know right now?
Well, what advice I would give them is get into regenerative medicine. There's no field of medicine that won't be touched by regenerative medicine. And you'll be ahead of the curve, as I was, and I still hopefully am. And it'll make your life better. It'll be rewarding for you financially and psychologically.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with this. It's a brand new field, I would say, and I don't think people realize how full of possibilities this field is. And I hope they're going to do more research and more people would do this or rely on it for patient care.
It's interesting. I had to kind of go back and teach myself some things. Here I was an orthopedic surgeon, essentially a carpenter. And all of a sudden I had to go back and I had to learn some of my internal medicine again. Say, okay, we've got to know that. And another analogy that I like to give patients and doctors is, I think of the body, the organs and the cells as the computer hardware and the pathways in our body as the computer software. And when you have a problem with your computer, what do? You reboot it. So you reset the path of the software. And that's what we're attempting to do in regenerative medicine. Reboot these pathways, make them, the good ones stronger and the bad ones weaker, so to speak.
Yes, true. What projects do you have in mind right now? What excites you? What do you have in plan?
Well, we have a network that we set up. We do something called EBO2, which stands for extracorporeal blood oxygenation and ozonation. So in a nutshell, we basically set up doctors' offices all over the United States, Europe, Turkey, etc. So what we do is we have an IV coming from the patient. The blood then goes into a dialysis filter where it mixes with ozone gas. Ozone gas then changes to other things, so no ozone enters the body. Then the blood goes into a machine called the hemolumen, which is 6 different color lights, and then it goes back into the patient. And we get some very interesting results with that. It's very interesting. Just to tell you, I was talking to one of my nurses. We had somebody that was doing a training in our office, so we did it on this one nurse. And she says, Dr. Purita, I had GI problems since I was 13. She's like 27, 26 now. And she said, after I did this procedure, and ever since, my GI problems have gone because this can dramatically reduce inflammation. And it's one of the interesting things I'm working with and making the protocols better. I was the one that put the light therapy with this technology, and that works good. Next thing I'm looking at is to incorporate it with plasmapheresis, which I think is one of the next big things in regenerative medicine, taking out some plasma and literally throwing it away and replacing it with either a young person's plasma or albumin or something along those lines. Therapeutic plasmapheresis, I think, is going to be the next big push in regenerative and anti-aging medicine.
Yes, that's a great idea. I would definitely want to circle back with you later on and see how those results are coming out. So, Dr. Purita, what is your why right now? Why do you do what you do?
Because I like it. It's interesting. It stimulates me. It keeps me young. I'm with all young people. So, they say that if you can keep your mind going, it's going to pay you dividends because your mind's going to stay good. And that's why I like it.
Yes, definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I hope people will learn more about your projects, and I hope everybody can reach out to you for advice and research on this subject. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can look me up. It's Purita. You can see me at my website, dr.purita at pureformhealth.com. And there's no E in the pure.
Very nice. Very nice.
Look me up on LinkedIn or, they can, any of those ways.
Yes. Well, I appreciate your time, and
my pleasure and honor.
Hope to talk to you later about those new ways and new strategies of treating patients.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Bye now.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.